DZEM 954, the voice of truth, the official radio station of the Church of Christ or Iglesia ni Cristo.
And good afternoon, wherever you are right now. Thank you again for tuning in to another episode of INCRadio New York. I'm Sister Abby Hidalgo, your host for today's episode. And with me today, we have two lovely couples from our district Buklod, Sister Jama and Brother Cliff Stirba, and Brother Warren and Sister Jackie Sabino. How are you all doing today?
We're great.
Hi, everyone.
How are you? Thank you for having us.
Excited for the questions.
Everybody.
Yes, we have another fun topic for today's episode. If you tune into our previous episodes, we're talking about love. And for today's episode, we are going to talk about tips on finding the right person. So, finding the right person is usually for marriage, and it's a journey that involves many things such as self-awareness, understanding your values, and building connections. So, on today's show, we will talk and discuss with our fellow bookloads or married couples on what qualities or tips are important in finding the right person. And for those in the YouTube live chat, please tell us your tips on how to find the right person. So we have our lovely guests, and we will get right into it. So first question, I don't know who wants to take this. As someone who has been married for however long you have been, what advice can you give on how to find the right person?
All right. Hey, it's a good one. It's a great question. That's an age-old question. As far as it goes for Gemma and I, we're 17 years now, going on 18, right? Is my math good?
16 going to 17.
Well, my math is bad then, I guess. But the idea is, I remember for meeting her, we both had an interest in CWS, in the children, in taking care of the young kids. So she was the teacher and I was the president at the time. And we got to know each other from doing a whole bunch of activities, planning out lots of stuff. And so that common interest. So I guess a trick to find someone that's the right person is to get to know someone and find common interests that you can sort of build off of. Is that good?
Yeah.
I recovered from that previous mistake.
You did. That was a good one.
I guess for us, we've been married for 20 years.
20 years.
Right. And I guess when it comes to us, the way we found, I think a lot of it was with prayer. I know that we were both active in the church at the time when we were Kadiwas, and noticed each other. And I think, the prayers, our personal prayers that we had kind of led us to each other. And in a time where communication isn't as, fast as it is now, it was a little bit more difficult back then. And really finding someone like Brother Cliff and Sister Gemma would be, when it comes to us as members, would be attending a lot of the activities that we had back in the day, especially district activities. Because
I think it also started back then when we had sports fests. We were friends, and from those activities, we got to know each other more, and it just built up from there.
Yeah, so being active
Yes.
and attending all these kinds of activities can definitely help find, a lot of people find their mates through that.
Yeah, I
Also,
remember.
I just wanted to add, sorry, Sister
No,
Abby, I
go
just
ahead.
wanted to add that I think finding the right person, that could be a very tricky question to ask, right? Because you have to know what you want first. I think you have to have, like you mentioned in your earlier opening, Sister Abby, self-awareness. If you not quite sure what exactly what you are looking for, if you don't know who you are, what you are, and what you think is important to you, then finding the right person could be tricky. So that I think if you're a kadiwa, you value your duties, your faith is something that's priority for you. You know that you want a partner that will help you build up that faith. You know that you want someone that will help you be better in your faith, right? Or be a better person. So then you kind of and ask yourself those kind of questions. And then I think like what Warren, Sister Jackie said, and what Cliff said, like getting to know, right? Because I think it always has to start with friendship. I think it helps when you have that connection of get to know each other and be friends. And then, because sometimes people may not have, I know that one of the topic we talk about few weeks ago is love at first sight, right? So it may not be love at first sight, but then you get to know the person, you become friends, and you realize you start to fall in love, right? And then because you have that common interest, and then it develop into finding the right person. Because then as you get to know another person, then you get to know what you want, and then finding that right person for you, right? Because everybody has a different right person for them, right? So yeah.
I guess we should ask Brother Warren and Sister Jackie, do you believe at love at first sight? Let's get their opinion.
I don't know if it's love, right? And I think I did watch that episode.
I mean, but in reality, though, like
Here we
it's
go.
like no, like when you see something that looks good because the way it's presented, like say like a cupcake or whatever, because you eat with your eyes first, right? So I mean, being realistic, if you see somebody that's like, oh, he's handsome, or she's pretty, or she's beautiful, whatever, that's the first instinct. But then,
but it's not love.
No,
I
it's
don't
not
think
love.
But it's
It's
like
attraction.
an attraction,
right,
but
but that's always
love
love
builds
right.
from that.
That's always kind of the first thing that you always, because you don't know anyone. You see people the way they look, the way they present themselves. Those are the kind of when you first interaction with them. I don't think it's like, but there is definitely that you can find an attraction.
But do you think there is love at first sight? To me, no, I don't.
I mean, yeah, I don't. I mean, like, I don't think it's love. I think it's just like an attraction. I don't think it's technically love.
So I know we touched upon like getting to know the person and finding what you like in a person or the qualities that are attractive to you. The next question is I guess we kind of discussed this previously, but quite an interesting question. Should one lower their standards just so they can meet and end up with someone? Why or why not?
That's such a funny question.
Yeah, this is so. I know with the current generation of Kadiwa and young people who are looking, they have this we Instagram or Facebook. There's a profile that you can look through it. You can instantly look through it. The whole person's past however many years of their life, see pictures, what they post, and sort of get an idea of maybe this is one thing that it looks this way or that. And then I've known it where people will meet and then they'll just meet for a minute in person, and then they'll go their separate ways, and then they'll look at Instagram and be like, that person's not for me, or this person looks okay. I think that we're a little bit too impatient nowadays. Maybe the younger generation might be a little too impatient, that it might be really fast to get to that point of yes, they're at my standard or not. And I think that's the standard today is it's really fast. So I think we could lower the standard a little bit and take it a little bit slower.
But I think that's a question like for maybe for those who been in a how would you later age, for example, you know, and they've been looking and meeting and they still could not meet, and so and they're already in that age that they're ready, they're ready to settle down, and maybe they get frustrated and now they're like, should we lower our standards so that I can.
So there's an inverse relationship between your age and your standards.
Maybe.
The older you get, the lower your standards are.
You gotta
No,
have
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
You know,
I
the,
think
the
we mentioned-
standard has to be a member of the church first. That's the standard, right? That's I think that's it. That's where you got to start from.
And
that.
that's the thing that that for sure you don't want to lower the standard
Can't
for.
go
I mean,
lower.
that's like your
Minimum.
deal breaker. That's
Yes.
the term, right? That's,
Definitely.
you gotta have a deal breaker. So you gotta be in the church. You gotta be, strong in the faith, officer, or that kind of thing. And those are the things that you don't want to compromise. Period. Like that's not something you compromise. But I think again, this is another. It's a question that we. It's not. Maybe we shouldn't look at it as lowering your standard. I think you just going in phases and realizing what's really more important to you. Maybe when you're in your younger teens, you young 20s, you maybe to you wanted someone, this kind of person, state in life or physicality or what have you, and then later on you learn more. You're in your 30s and you realize this is what you value more. You want someone who can have conversation, who enjoys long conversation, walk on the beach.
Yeah, because as
More
you get
than,
older,
like shopping buddy, I don't know.
or someone that likes spending a long time at church, and just doing stuff, those are also, good standards to have. I honestly don't think you have to lower them. You can broaden the standard. How about that? By being more aware of who is around you and
What's more important to you?
broadening. I think that's the idea. Some people are so limiting themselves to just 1 hour a day on 1 or 2 days a week. That's the people I see, and that's it. There's no one here for me. I can't find it. I'll never find it. But there's a whole planet of people that are looking, and you just got to broaden your scope of vision.
Yeah, I think we mentioned this before. Maybe it's not kind of lowering your standard, but it's just kind of every time you prior and then you reevaluate what you think you might be looking for. When you're younger, you have more energy, you have more, you're open to more things, and then as you get older, sometimes you kind of prioritize and you kind of lessen those kinds of things that were important to you, or things change, things get different, like maybe you used to want to go out all the time, but then now you want to be home by 8 o'clock and sleep by 9. And then it's a compromise. Like you gotta figure out what's best for you, and what's gonna make you happy in the end. But definitely, what you said, the being close to God and our relationship with in the church is definitely the standard.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's really, you're not, again, lowering your standards like both the couples said. It's just broadening and reevaluating. So, next question. How important is it to know one's worth when they're looking for a relationship?
I think it's important.
So important.
Yeah, because you gotta know. You gotta know the things that you value. Those are important for you, and those are the things that you don't compromise.
Because I guess when you meet somebody, for sure, initially it'll look great, right? There's that attraction at first sight again. Initially it looks great, but everyone has flaws, and you have to be able to be comfortable with the flaws of the other person, and they have to be comfortable with your flaws. And so you have to know what you're going to be comfortable with. I think that's super important, because no one's perfect. There's never an argument-less relationship. There's always going to be a difference of opinion, and can you get past that? And is it worth pursuing it if this person is unwilling to compromise? Maybe there should be an equal dynamic in the relationship. There shouldn't be any person that overpowers the other. I think that's really important. Not to, it should be an equal kind of thing, a give and a take, and it should feel not forced.
It's important to have the value of yourself, but you can't also think that I'm perfect, I'm this, and you kind of also have to realize that you also have imperfections, and you cannot, accept those imperfections. And then is this partner or person that you are with, are you willing to work those imperfections together?
I think also, like, going on the other spectrum is you can't always sacrifice everything that you want or everything for the other person. Like, you have to kind of also know what you want, what makes you happy, as well as making your significant other happy as well. Like, there is definitely a fine line between you compromising what you want, and also sacrificing what you want, so that you can make the other person happy. I mean, like, knowing yourself and knowing what you like, and knowing what you're willing to sacrifice and deal with, makes for a good relationship. I think, like, it's open, having an open communication as well, making sure that whoever you're with, you're always, talking to each other, about your feelings, and, what, really valuing each other, helps in finding someone special, I guess.
And that the compatibility is what's important also. You have to, you have differences, but those differences make you work together, right? Isn't that like how relationships are? You're compatible with each other because you have differences.
Right. It's a give and take. There's days that you'll be giving, and there's days that you'll be taking, and both of you have to understand that and be willing to work through all the issues that can possibly come up. So yeah, I think it's really important to know your worth, and to understand what your needs and wants are when it comes to a relationship.
And I think that's the key part. And when you're trying to find, going back to the first question, I think that's an answer to the question: how do you find the right person? So when you are willing to, when you see your worth, and you see that person's worth, and you're willing to make that sacrifice to make things work out, right? Because you're always going to have argument differences, but if this relationship is worth it, that person is worth it, and you are worth it, then you make that sacrifice to make it work. That's how you figure out finding the right person. Because if that person is also right for you, that person is also going to try to make things work out with you. So,
yes, I agree. I think it is there's a way, like, just seems easy, and even though there's difficult times you get through, it just it isn't like the relationship when it's right. It feels like easy. Like, you can't. Yeah, you'll go through difficult time. I mean, not easy, but
just
like,
the process.
Yeah, like, you feel,
because you're helping each other,
right? Like, there's like a feeling that you get, like, you're willing to do what you're not used to, or like you're willing to sacrifice what you don't usually do.
I think it's also like loving unconditionally.
Yeah, makes sense. It's a partnership. You have to make things work together. Okay. I know earlier in our discussion we talked. Some of you mentioned about prayers. So, how important is prayer and devotional prayers when it comes to finding the one?
Very important. It's the must, the first
Number
things
one.
Yes.
to do that. You know, you will never know, and this is the thing, is because we go through our stages of life. What you thought you liked when you were in your late teens, early 20s, 30s, right? It kept changing, right? When you're trying to find a partner and in your 20s or later, you're like, oh, I thought this is what I would want. Oh, and maybe, and that's why we go to different relationship, right? You date and then like, okay, this doesn't work out. You meet another person. But that's the thing. We can never trust our own judgment. We don't know what's good for us or what's right for us. Only God knows what's right for us. So if you're just gonna base it on what you think is what you want or a person, time changes and that could be changed. So praying and asking God for guidance and it may be asking for a sign or for guiding you to find the right one, because he will be the only one that can give you that right person that you can go through the test of time forever. And that's the forever that you will. Yes, it's not going to be a perfect life. There's going to be challenge. That's part of marriage and what have you, relationship. But it's only having that trust that and relying that God is the only one that can know you. God can see people's heart. You may not see that guy, that person's heart. Or maybe you thought you know the heart of that person, but you may still be wrong after 5 years of dating the guy or the girl or have you. But God knows. So he will lead you to it. And if it's not the right one, God will show you it's not the right one. So yes, prayers all the way.
I also have known couples that have gone on to become married couples that they actually did devotional prayers together. And I had known that before they were even married, as in, if it's the right choice to do this, let it show us that it's the right choice. That was the prayer, was, if we are meant to be together, let it be known. And if we're not meant to be together, let it be known. And that was a prayer that you prayed for with that person. So, and I thought that was pretty powerful already, just to put all of that future trust in God. I think it's a pretty powerful statement that you can make by praying with that person. It's, you're really just trusting the future of your life. And it's a big deal. It was very, very interesting. I was very romantic when I heard about that. Wow, that's pretty cool.
Funny story. For us, I know I've told this to Sister Jackie many times. I don't know if I told the service before, but back in the day when I was single, I would pray. I mean, I had relations, but they didn't work out. But I was asking God, for a person, and I actually said in my prayer, someone like Sister Jackie. And a few months later, God, brought us together. I mean, I knew Sister Jackie. She was an active district officer, and very kind, very sweet. And I saw her and I asked specifically. It may not work for everyone. It's very specific, but for me, that's why I said someone like Sister Jackie. And look what happened. I guess months after.
So before we got married, prayer was the basis of our relationship, because we were in a long distance relationship. I'm from Maryland, he's from here. And I used to work at night, and we would pray at 12 noon every day on the phone. That was our every day. And prayer is still the basis of our life. Like, we pray with our children, so it's definitely the
Always
number
the center,
one.
the center
the
of
center.
our relationship.
Yeah, you hear many stories about couples praying for, even down to the specifics, and they don't know their future spouse or their future partner, but then when they finally meet them, they're like, oh, this is what I prayed for. And it's so heartwarming to hear those stories about having prayer being so essential in finding their spouse or their partner in life. So It's nice for you guys to share your stories about that. It makes me so. I know you mentioned about signs and interpreting signs. Like, what are your thoughts about that?
I think it's again, it's may not be for everybody. For us, like we definitely prayed for signs as well. He has his story.
Yeah, I remember. It was before I ever met you. I was gonna go for a jog, and I remember I just had this overwhelming feeling of kind of loneliness all of a sudden. And so usually before I jog, I would pray, and in the prayer, I was just praying for that somebody would be able to be in my life that filled this list. And I had a list of like 30 very specific things, like super specific, like very, very specific. And I really rattled it out. And I was like, it's in my head. It felt like that's an impossible kind of request. And, I'm just, putting these things out there in the prayer. And, yeah, I remember someone approaching me and tapping me on the shoulder, asking if I was okay, because I was sitting down, like crying on the ground, and 30 minutes had passed and it felt like, just a couple minutes. But I remember about 2 months later, she showed up, that one there. And she checked off all of the boxes in what I prayed for. And not everything was checked off even after we got married. It's over the years, they've been checked off more and more and reinforced. And she checked off all of them. I was really specific. Like, I don't know. It's just, I was really, and it sounded like a long shot. It sounded like, like I felt almost selfish asking for these things, but they all were fulfilled in her. So yeah, be specific. I'm a big fan of that specific stuff, because when it comes around, when you see the signs, when what you've prayed for starts to manifest, it really it gives you a lot of hope, and it gives you a lot of happiness to know that you're going where you're meant to go. So yeah, be specific. Become an interpreter of dreams, or no, not really, but like interpret signs.
It's funny that you mentioned that. I mean, at that time when we met, I wasn't quite ready to be in a relationship at that time. So I wasn't really like focused on it. But I had it in the back of my mind, and I was praying that if the time has come. I think I kind of got to the point. I married late in my 20s, and there's this running joke in my family that I'm gonna be the unmarried one. Because it was in our family, in our bloodline, or something like that. My dad makes fun of me all the time, but I wasn't, because I was trying to finish my career, and I had all these plans. But I did pray, and I remember asking, like, God, if there's one for me, there was only one I asked, like, has to be a CWS teacher. I don't know. And this sound kind of say like, but I guess I had one friend that said that I said this in my prayer one time, and that I asked for specific even ethnicity background, and then he come into fulfillment of Buttercliff.
But that's the thing. I didn't become a CWS teacher until after we were married.
Yeah.
So it was fulfilled after we had been married. So, the fulfillments can happen even after you've found the one. Mm-hmm. So, you can have your list, and they might not be checked off just yet, but if you stick with it, maybe you'll hit everything eventually.
Yeah, I just told, like, for those who are looking for signs, I just hope, they don't miss them. Like sometimes it's straight in your face. There's already someone that's maybe kind of, fits some of the description, but there's just something that you don't see. I just hope they don't miss those signs. I mean, like sometimes, it can go unsaid, but, like it happens, right? Like there's definitely things that you look for, you ask for, and then all of a sudden, it comes. I mean, like, you just have to have that faith that, God knows what's best for us. And then, just trust that it'll happen.
Well, for me, growing up, my parents were always strict, so I just prayed for somebody that they would like or even love. And when we got together, like they loved him more than they loved me, so I was like, okay, fine, I guess this is it. So
I love your
yeah.
parents.
And I think also part of that prayer or the sign is the timing, because sometimes it may not be the timing that you. So you ask for a sign. Is it my time, or please guide me to understand where the right timing is, and and that could be part of you can ask for that specific. Whichever that you're comfortable asking God, it's a relationship that you have, how comfortable you are when you're praying with God when you're asking. I think throughout your life you learn, anything. I mean, we experience, like, when you're taking an exam, you're very specific about asking for a certain grade, right, or a certain score, maybe, and so you learn throughout your life how your prayers are, how your relationship is with God, and how specific you are. And when God, you'll know, because I mean, it's almost like a parent, right? And every child, your relationship with that particular child might, not that you're less close, you're close, but your communication skill with relationship with your one kid versus the other kid. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if throughout your years of life God gives your answers to you in a very specific way, then you kind of learned, how those signs and how those are going to pan out for you. And for some people, it may not be as specific. It may be something broad. It may be something, in general. And that's perfectly fine too.
Food for thought. Again, thank you again for sharing your thoughts and answering our questions on trying to find the right one. Again, it's really important, like what you mentioned, to have your prayers, ask God for guidance, because obviously He knows what's best for us. So it comes to that time of the show again. I know we're getting really deep into these questions, but unfortunately, we have to say our goodbyes. But that's all for our show today. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you to the church administration for giving us a platform like this to share and speak about important and interesting topics like these. Don't forget to catch us again next Saturday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time, or Sunday 12:30 a.m. Philippine time. And greetings to our beloved Executive Minister, Brother Eduardo V. Manalo, and to our Christian Family Organization Coordinator and Subsea President, Brother Angelo Aranyo Manalo, to our District Minister, Brother Sheridan Santos, our Assistant District Minister, Brother Neil Patrick Omelda. That brings us to the end of our show. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and have a good night.